Hello, hello. This is Kenya Rahmaan, author and founder of the Child Support Hustle. And it is very good to be here. And as the title says, I want to talk about Senator Warnock. And I want to do a video as well talking about the family court issues that his competitor, Herschel Walker, is facing as far as uh, having to do with the family court issues. My biggest, I guess, problem or issue with both of these gentlemen is why are they running from their family court issues when so many people in this country are dealing with family court issues? So I wrote an article about it. So a lot of this stuff is I covered in my article. So I'm gonna go over some other things, and I put the link to the article in the description, of course, and what I discuss is going to be in there. So I'm gonna get started. So Senator Raphael Warnock, the incumbent out of Georgia, is defending his seat against former NFL superstar Herschel Walker. The race is so tight that there had to be a runoff to decide the winner of the election on December 6th. Excuse me. And that will determine the new senator. Warnock, to his credit, has passed two bills that his party claim will prove beneficial to the citizens of the United States, not just Georgia. So, according to the senator's Twitter account, the Inflation Reduction Act will significantly lower healthcare costs for Georgians, create clean energy jobs, and reduce the deficit all at the same time. Secondly, President Biden has signed a Patient Advocate Tracker Act, which was introduced by Senator Warnock. According to Carlton Clay of News Channel 6, the bill will increase transparency and accountability at the Department of Veterans Affairs, who report concerns that they experience with the VA health care services, which is a bipartisan legislation. So as a disabled veteran, if you're new here, I'm a disabled veteran. So I'm happy with any legislation that's passed that's going to help veterans when we go there to the VA for our health care. I'm for anything that helps speed the process along and get better care. So I'm not dissing Senator Warnock on his accomplishments, but I'm still wondering why ignore family court issues. And this is not just for these two gentlemen, for any politician, but these two gentlemen in particular, because they're all over the place in the news and the media about their family court issues. So one of the things is, why are they not talking about this? So along with the sources that I discussed, again, they're going to be in the description. I think I forgot one, but I'm going to make sure I put it in there later. So I'll talk about his ignoring the fact that his ex is trying to make him pay more child support while asking the judge to allow her to relocate their children over 1,000 miles away from their father. Another issue is that the children's mother claims that Senator Warnock is violating the visitation order because the children are with a nanny more time than they're with their father. And that's because he works. So that's not anything new. Most working parents have some type of child care, a nanny or something like that, and they spend their time at work so they can pay bills. So this is what their mother is charging. So when you hear all this contempt of court and all this kind of stuff against Senator Warnock, this is what they're talking about. And they say he doesn't pay his child support. We know that when you don't pay your child support, you are punished to the fullest extent of the law. It does not escape you from being punished because you are a senator. So that's another reason why I want to talk about this, not in his defense, but just to show what is going on with his case. So instead of the Reverend acting like this problem doesn't exist, he can try the case in the public eye. What better place to put his situation in front of everybody. He improved because I looked at the case and what his ex-wife is uh, accusing him of versus what he's doing or what he's defending himself against these allegations. And it sounds a lot like what other parents, fathers especially, are defending themselves against. So why not? And another thing besides the child support is the shared parenting issue that's going on there. But first, I'm going to talk about the child support issue. So here are just a few problems that's going on with Georgia's child support system that Senator Warnock could address. Prior to December 31st, 2006, Georgia was charging 12% per year interest. Now it's 7%, which is still high. Georgia suspends drivers' occupational, professional, and business licenses, and the threshold is supposed to be if a parent is delinquent for more than 60 days and they have the ability or the willfulness to pay. But we know that these punishments will be enforced without any kind of due process to show that a parent has the willfulness, they have the means to pay but refuse to. This is like a rubber stamp system. They come up delinquent in this computer system, and all of a sudden their licenses are suspended. And that's problematic when parents drive for a living, when they need that license to practice medicine, when they are barbers or hairstylists and their license is yanked because they can't afford to pay the support. So a misdemeanor charge that carries up to a year in prison with a fine of $1,000. Felony, we already know what problems go on with just voting as a felon in Georgia. We're seeing that right now, all the problems that go on at the voting booth. At least if they leave the state or if it's third offense, there's a sentence of 1 to 3 years. Georgia's supposed to pass through child support to families receiving TANF and up to the unmet need for purposes of fill the gap budgeting. To be clear, the fill the gap budgeting means the amount of child support distributed to the family is equal to the difference between the maximum eligibility standard and the recipient's income. Essentially, to fill in the gap between income and the need, the difference is filled by child support up to 100%. But despite Georgia saying that they do pass through some of that money from fiscal year 2017 all the way to 2021, is zero. So they claim that they pass through this money, and they don't. Senator Warnock, they don't. They're lying. These are your colleagues. However, in 2020, the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities reported that Georgia had managed to hoard $107 million in unspent TANF block grant funds. You're keeping this money. Non-custodial parents allegedly owe $214,917,035 for welfare benefits that researchers and child support officials have said repeatedly is more harmful than helpful to parents and children. Senator Warnock often touts that he's, for the low-income people, the poor people of Georgia, and for the United States. And there's over $200 million in fake child support debt that is harmful to the citizens of Georgia and the United States. That's not the United States' full debt, welfare debt that parents allegedly owe, but that's something that could be addressed. And yet it's being ignored. I don't understand that. So according to former commissioner to the Office of Child Support Enforcement, Vicki Tereski, and her colleague Maureen R. Waller, it shared a publication entitled Piling on the Debt. This is a very interesting read, but I wish people like Warnock and Walker and everybody would read this and not only read it, but execute some kind of plan to help parents and to clean up this mess that they call child support, this child support program, because it's time. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Y'all thought I had my phone turned off. I apologize. So this piling on the debt is it's piling on the debt, the intersection between child support arrears and legal financial obligations. So these are just some of the points that they have found out with this high ass child support debt that's owed not only to the government, but just owed, period, which is up to over $100 billion. They found that the child support debt can take a large personal toll with implications for employment, health, family life, and civic participation. Homeless veterans reported that child support debt was one of their top legal problems. And we don't even want to get into the garnishment issues that disabled veterans have with child support agencies touching money they're not supposed to touch. Disadvantaged men report significant challenges complying with child support orders when they lack stable employment and convey a sense of hopelessness about their ability to pay off their arrears. How can you pay money that you don't have? It's impossible. Especially when you're homeless, you don't have shit, but that debt keeps piling up. And then when you go to try to find an apartment, try to find or buy a car or do anything that will improve your basic living situation, every avenue that it takes for you to get that is disrupted by the child support system, just based on your credit report. So the outstanding child support debt has grown to $115 billion over the last 40 years and is largely uncollectible. These are things that Warnock and the people in Congress or in the Senate, they know this, or if they don't, they should. When the debt is owed to the government to repay cash assistance, it resembles other legal financial obligations and loses its character as support for children. That's what I always say, and other people say. This is not child support. This is government support. When they say child support, that's not what it means. That's not what it's meant in decades. In my opinion, it's never meant that. And when you read it and you study this stuff, it's never been child support. It's always been government support. There's an accumulation of child support debt that has a major adverse effects on the ability of low-income, non-resident parents to maintain employment and maintain relationships with their children. They know that this is damaging to the relationship of children. How is this beneficial to children if they're telling you that it's damaging? The two, you can't have the same, they can't both be true. If the debt is damaging to the children, then it can't be child support. It can't be supportive and damaging at the same time. Much of the debt accumulates during periods of incarceration and unemployment and is partially the result of state policies to impute fictional income to parents when they do not have earnings. Fictional. This shit is fake. It's false. It doesn't exist. It's like like a magic trick. Boom, poof, it appears, and poof, it could disappear. That's the President Biden. My dog is right here, so you're going to hear him. He's dog and ponying, which is, you can see him a little bit. He gets a hold of his toys and then he wants to show off. I'm going to have to edit this out, but hold on, guys. Dad, can you get Kane, please? I'm sorry, guys. Can you get Kane? He's showing off. Okay. Kane, you gotta go upstairs. Kane. I'm sorry, guys. I'm getting right back to it, but he needs attention. He's showing off. Okay, it's not my opinion, but I have to kind of cover myself. Okay. Yeah, he's doing his dog and pony show. Look at me. I can tear up this toy. He's gonna murder the toy, guys.
Okay, where are you?
He's right here.
Oh, come on, Kane. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Okay, guys. Thank you for your patience. What is this new dating? Oh goodness. Hold on, y'all. Let me get this spam off of here. Okay, I'm back. That's my cane. So where was I? Okay, so overly aggressive and poorly targeted enforcement efforts, particularly civil contempt and driver's license suspension, are often ineffective and have the effect of driving low-income resident parents out of jobs and into the underground economy. No shit. Now, this is stuff they've been sitting on for like 40 years. So if Senator Warnock, that's going through this, he's going through this right now, but he's talking about everything else besides this front and center. And I don't understand it. Why do they run from this topic? So, I mean, they just, and at one point when I was lobbying my reabolished debtor prison bill down here in Texas Capitol, I was told that the politicians didn't want to piss off their female constituency. But we know now more than ever that women pay child support too. Women want a change too. So that is not an excuse anymore. That doesn't fly. So although Senator Warnock does not fall in the parameter of low income or incarcerated as a non-custodial father who owes tens of thousands of child support, he is still labeled a deadbeat, and his children are still labeled fatherless under the technical term. He doesn't live in a home with his kids, so his kids are fatherless under the definition, right? So why isn't he even speaking about that? And Herschel Walker, even though he rallied against fatherlessness in the Black community, he's now, after they put him on blast, his children, 3 of them by last count, and his son, Christian, although he's an adult, they're all fatherless. But instead of addressing that, he's running from it. I'm going to do a video about that. Make sure your notifications are on. This was just too much information to put it all in one video. So the problems with parents being railroaded into the modern day slave system should be enough to make every politician in the nation fight against these egregious practices. But instead, politicians like the senator ignore them even when he's knee deep in the extortion and is being threatened to have his children removed from his life by way of relocation. The relocation piece of this is so significant, especially in his case. So in his wife's complaint, that's the one I didn't put the link up, but I'm going to. In his wife's complaint, she wants to move his children where his time with them will be decreased, even though that's part of her complaint, is that he's not spending enough time. So her solution is to move them where he's going to have less time. And she wants him to pay money for the child care. So she wants him to increase his child support payment and then finance somebody babysitting his children, even though she is complaining about that. That's hypocrisy at its greatest. You want to punish me and then make me pay for it. Then you don't want me to be around my children. So while there's nothing wrong with her going back to school and furthering her education and everything like that, why would you want to take the father away from his children, which is another issue that comes up with the shared parenting? When one parent feels they have more control over the other parent. So the National Parent Organization, they put out a report card. I think they do it annually. And for the 2022 report card, they did, they grade everybody based on their policies and shared parenting. And this year, Georgia received an F on the report card. The senator, let me see, could reach out to so many voters by addressing the shared parenting disparity, not only in Georgia, but nationwide. It's a travesty that he's ignoring it and nobody's calling him out on it publicly. I mean, little on me, but he's not going to probably see this unless you share it and post it to him. And I'm asking you directly, Senator, why are you not addressing the F grade that the National Parents Organization gave the state of Georgia? Here's why. According to the NPO, Georgia is one of only 9 states lacking a presumptive parenting time adjustment formula. Instead, it relies on unnecessarily costly and lengthy court deviation procedures, generally inaccessible to lower income parents. The senator runs, as I said earlier, on helping low income parents, the underdog, minority citizens, when they've had this presumptive time adjustment formula that is detrimental to non-custodial parents in a lower income tax bracket. That means they can't spend time with their children. But in the same token, they want to call this tax bracket, these minority fathers, we want to call them abandoners and call their children fatherless. And this is everywhere. Anytime you turn on any kind of social media outlet or anything like that, fatherlessness is top ticket. And it's blamed on so many social problems. But there's hardly any solutions. There's they'll put up some like, oh, there's a new program, or they're going to throw some money at it. But there's nothing significant going on because this issue does not exist. The way that you can solve a problem like this alleged fatherlessness crisis is letting fathers have access to their children. But he can still say something about it, considering that his children are about to be relocated, because that's what she wants to do. And typically, and we know this, the courts are going to favor mothers over fathers. Say something about it, Senator. That's factual. The court system is biased against fathers. The NPO goes on to write that the lack of a presumptive PRA as an integral component of the mandated presumptive child support guidelines arguably violates federal regulatory requirements. That's a mouthful. Not only could Warnock argue the violations of the presumptive child support guideline violations twice, but he could also argue the constitutional violations that were introduced back in 2002 by the Honorable C. Dane Perkins. Now, for all y'all unfamiliar with Judge C. Dane Perkins, he ruled in the case Sweat v. Sweat in the Superior Court of Atchison County in the state of Georgia. And the civil action was, quote, an order declaring Georgia's child support guidelines void and unconstitutional, end quote. I might have put this link. I don't know why when I was posting this, I didn't see a couple of these links, these key links. So I'm gonna go back at the end of this live and make sure I put these up here, okay? So I'm gonna go over a couple points out of Judge Perkins' decision. Of course, they went back and appealed it and ruled that it was this case, that what he ruled was constitutional. But just listen to the points that he made in this Sweat v. Sweat. The intended purpose of the Georgia child support guidelines is to determine an economically appropriate child support award. The guidelines adopted by Georgia, as originally designed by the underlying economic study, were intended only for welfare situations, not for all situations. Remember, child support originally and still is a welfare recovery program. Non-welfare cases were were thrown in as an afterthought so that non-welfare cases were not their rights weren't violated. They had to include non-welfare people so that the whole program was inclusive, so they couldn't be sued. The presumptive percentages were based only on data for low-income cases and were extended without the benefit of data for non-welfare cases. They weren't prepared. They weren't prepared for non-welfare cases. Non-welfare cases are collateral damage. Even all these years later, they're trying to scramble because all these welfare cases are closing. I talked about this in another video or several videos. All those cases are, the kids are aging out. Like my daughter, for instance, is now 24. So you have all these cases, millions of children that have aged out. So now they have non-welfare cases that are now part of that Title 4D, but they don't apply to these welfare cases because the rules weren't meant for them. But this was back in 2002. They already knew the shit. So Georgia's guidelines are arbitrary and are not rational since there is no economic foundation for presumptive orders that rise as a share of household net income. Not sharing the child-related tax benefits violates equal protections. You're not even sharing the tax benefits. Why should one person get tax benefits and the other doesn't when you both have a child? Not sharing tax benefits with both parents is an extraordinary benefit for the custodial parent, an extraordinary burden for the non-custodial parent. How many times have you heard people say that, or have you said that? Why do you get to claim the child and get the earned income tax credit, and I pay child support and I don't get it? Judge Perkins said that years ago. Presumptive awards typically exceed total actual cost, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, which violates equal protection standards for both the child and the non-custodial parents. So the system violates the child and the parent. Excessive child support awards are not in the best interest of either the child or the non-custodial parent because they can't adequately provide when they have their child. If one parent is paying all the expenses in the other house where the child lives, how are they going to take care of their expenses in their house? This stuff was already written, and they already knew it before they started enforcing this shit all over the place. They knew this. Excessive child support awards are not in the best interest of either the child or the non-custodial parent. I think I just said that. Okay, the guidelines are biased. The guidelines do not meet standards of fairness. The guidelines boost the standards of living for the custodial parent. The guidelines bear no relationship to the standards for child support of requiring each parent to have an equal duty to supporting the child. This is a long one, so bear with me. The presumptive award for low-income obligors pushes low-income obligors below poverty level, leaving them with less income needed for basic living needs, which creates an extraordinary burden to the parent and taxpayer. This violates equal protection and is contrary to public policy and common sense. Anybody that looks at this system for what it is knows that it's not even common sense. It's not even common sense. You take one person and basically make them take care of a whole other human being, not the child, a whole other adult for 18 plus years just because they have a baby together. That's not even common sense. We had sex, we had a baby, now I gotta take care of you. Failing to consider custodial parents' income is not economically rational and violates equal protection. So for everybody that says this system is unconstitutional and you say equal protection, it violates equal protection, and this is why. Here's a list of more, if you didn't already have them. Here's a list of more reasons. And another reason is that married people aren't treated the same way as unmarried people when it comes to children and how we take care of our children, how much we spend on our children. We don't Married people don't have to pay for their children to go to college. Unmarried people, I mean, there's all kind of violations. So, Senator Warnock, again, these are arguments that you could use in your case while your ex-wife is trying to take your children and move them away from you and want you to pay for it. Judge Perkins continues with even more violations that Senator Warnock and every politician and taxpayer in Georgia should pay attention to, especially when every person is looking at this Senate race. Like it's all eyes on this race on Georgia, and they have an F in shared parenting. That's a topic that is hot. Like, why aren't parents talking? I'm sorry, I'm all kind of distractions tonight. Y'all have to forgive me. And this one is a long one, so I apologize. I thank y'all for everybody that stayed with me and tuned in, but I'm like, so I appreciate it. So parents should not be forced into a system that is clearly unconstitutional. We knew it was unconstitutional. Well, not all of us. I didn't know, but studying it for so many years and sharing what I found out with you guys sharing what you found out with me, now we know that the system is unconstitutional. So it frustrates me. I'm sure it frustrates you guys when politicians, like Senator Warnock and his opponent, they are stomping hard, asking for our votes. I mean, I'm not in Georgia, but I'm just, looking, and they do it all over. Ask for our votes, and they don't talk about the topics that affect us every day, which is family court, child support, shared parenting. I mean, they talk about other stuff that affects us, but we've been talking about this now for a good 20 years. Everybody else, some older, 30. We just read that report that said 40. So when are they going to take up this issue? I don't understand why. And these guys are knee deep in it. You can't even open Twitter. You can't open any social media without seeing that Warnock is, not paying his child support, or, something to do with his family court case. It's everywhere. And to see them ignore it without addressing it is just like, it's so frustrating. Like, talk about it. There's millions of people dealing with this shit. So that is my video. If you're in Georgia, contact Warnock and Walker, their campaigns. I can't contact Mr. Walker. He has blocked me on Twitter. All I did was ask before they debated, like, why won't you debate him? Because I'm always asking about family court. Like, why aren't you saying anything about this? And I share my, and I write something about them, but damn, he blocked me, so I can't ask him. So if you ask him, maybe you can get an answer. But yeah, ask them, what do they plan to do? And don't take that shit where, oh, it's a state issue or it's a federal. It's not this. It's both of their issue. It's both of it. Don't let them pass the buck. So that is it for me. Make sure your notifications are turned on so I can do. I'm gonna do Walker's video maybe tomorrow or the day after. So make sure your notifications are turned on. Make sure you're subscribed and sharing. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me see. God is calling for judgment to the wicked. Yeah. So I'm a proud deadbeat. Okay. I didn't get a lot of comments today, or what is it, chats. But that's okay. If you go back, if you're watching this later, comment, let me know what you think. And that's it. Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Fight the power.